I found that one interesting thing about playing a whole bunch of different characters and actually going through the campaign, not do any campaign skipping. Like Shagsworth was telling me about that. I was like, campaign skipping. I was like, well, I guess if I just want to get right to endgame, but I'm like, I don't know, man. I kind of like just playing this game. I don't really want to skip through stuff. And I've been playing basically entirely single player, like, which is kind of wild to think. I never thought that that's how I'd be approaching this game in the slightest, but yeah, this is I've now just made one of every character, and I've been playing it largely alone. I played with Adam like once, with Aegleen a couple times, and it's not that I wouldn't want to play with anyone. In fact, Shagsworth said that he might hop in for a bit and just help me with the campaign stuff, which I'm up for. But it's been interesting to experience this game that is an always online live service game. This game's been quite a lot of fun to play. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm not crazy about how Blizzard has run things. Apparently, Blizzard, was it Albany? I think it's Albany. It's Albany or Albion. Is Vicarious Visions in England or New York? I think it's Albany. But Blizzard Albany, who used to be Vicarious, and no, Diablo IV is not free, which is why I think that the type of experience that I've had with the game is valuable, because I paid too much for this game, realistically, especially if I don't end up really doing the seasonal content, because I now am bought into a battle pass that I may not give a shit about at all. But I wanted to play the game a little bit earlier, and did it mostly because I thought I needed it for the early access beta that I was going to play with Adam and his guys. And it turns out I didn't, so I got it for no reason. But anyways, I had it. But what I'm trying to say is that the experience that I found has been gratified by the time I've spent with this game is that I think if you don't give a shit about the multiplayer aspects of this game, like if you think this gameplay looks fun and you're like, yeah, I wouldn't mind a top-down action game with RPG and character building elements that has a wide variety of different play styles, even if it's just fundamentally one style of gameplay. Because all this game is top-down, third-person action. That is what you're doing the entire time you're playing Diablo. It is not a game about puzzles. It's not a game in which you have to solve any mysteries. You don't have any dialogue choices. You are just killing shit a lot. And I mean, management around that. Like, what are you equipped with? What skills are you picking? So, character management, inventory management, and combat is essentially all there is to it. But I think that if you have the disposable income, or if you see it on sale in the future, and you end up spending money on this game, as a person who just wants to play a game that looks like this, with one person going through the campaign, I have easily got a full game's purchase worth of content out of this game, and fun out of it. Like, experience is good enough that I think it has been well worth the money that I've spent on this game. That said, I do think it's overpriced. If there's, I think, here, tell you what, I don't necessarily think it's overpriced, but I think that I do, but not for as simple a reason as just it costs too much money. I guess I'll explain what I mean by that a little bit further. So it costs probably more than it's actually worth if you're only going to be playing it as a single player game for right now, as a brand new release, ultra expensive $70 game. Yeah, I would say it costs too much money, but I think all $70 games cost too much money. Literally all. I don't even think that it was appropriate for great games like Resident Evil 4, Dead Space, Tears of the Kingdom, all the best games I played this year that are AAAs. I don't really agree with any of them being that much money, because I think that games should have gotten cheaper over time as we've been moving to a more digital marketplace, as well as the sheer scope, the size of the video game industry increasing by orders of magnitude. So not multiplied. exponentially expanded from the 90s to now. So anytime anyone ever says to me, hey, Super Nintendo games used to be $90, man, so like you should be happy to pay 70, I'm like, yeah, but I was one of the 5 nerds at my entire school who played video games. You know, like it's not really the same market. Or I was one of the 5 people at my school who would play more than 2 video games a year. That's probably a better way to look at it, because there's a lot of people who'd be like, no bro, I had an NES. It's like, yeah, but did you have anything other than Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and maybe that track and field game? Because if the answer is no, I'm sorry, you didn't play video games growing up. You played a video game or 2 when you were growing up. It's not, or I mean, okay, it's like semantics, obviously, but I think that there is a actual difference there, a distinction. And I think that collect spider venom, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I really got to start reading the objectives before I leave places. You know what it is? It's when I'm in idle gaming mode, especially if I'm focusing on like telling you guys a story or trying to explain a concept, I'm just kind of glancing for waypoints and being like, okay, where do I need to go next? Because I'm doing a side quest. I want to gain some levels here. And it's like, man, you get caught in 4K where it's like you weren't even paying the most low level amount of attention to what you were actually doing. And but yeah, it's why though that a game like this is kind of fun sometimes, because it's not mindless, because when you're in the heat of combat you do genuinely have to think, and structuring your build so that you can have a build that is generally low effort is its own kind of thing. And I don't want to sound like I should clarify that too, because I almost got distracted back by this, but I don't mean to denigrate people who were casual gamers in their childhood or say that your experience is any less valuable. It's just the difference is you're not looking at a wide enough view, because you're thinking of it as like, yeah, playing video games means you had a video game system at your house. And I'm like, not the way I mean it, because I'm talking about the kind of people who play 5-10 games a year, 20-30 games a year, you know, like it's a bit of a different type of customer. And while you could make judgments on how much that person is or is not wasting their money, I think there's a good conversation to be had about that realistically, because on a lot of these games that are coming out, it is a waste of money. But ultimately, that is a person who will have a wider spectrum view of what the industry actually is and what makes a game good or not. You know, so it's like, well, can I recommend this game for this price? It's like, well, if you have this much money to spend on a game and watching me play it makes you think, hey, this looks like fun, probably, yeah. If you have to take out a loan or like steal from your parents or do anything horrible in order to be able to acquire this game, no, you should wait. It's not that good. I'm not saying it's the greatest game that's ever been made or anything. I'm just saying that it's like, yeah, you know what? The amount of money I spent on this, when I consider how much I would spend out drinking at a bar at a random night if I was just out partying. Like, I mean, as a younger man, obviously, I don't really do that much anymore. And fealty, I get, you know, you saw me at a wedding, okay? Yes, I was drinking at the wedding, okay? But it's not my normal day. And also the wedding being, yeah, I don't know, you could argue more or less expensive, because we had to drive quite a way and stay at a hotel, so that did make it more expensive. My point is, though, the $80 I spent on this game, like Canadian, or I guess, no, wait, it would have been more. It would have been $100. So I spent $100 on this game, has paid for itself and how much enjoyment I got out of it, but it is also not to the point that I'm like, no, it's worth this amount of money. I'm not going to start simping for that price point, because I've had an amount of fun with this game that I think justifies spending that price, because I think setting a price standard for the industry, which $70 is becoming or has already become, does really it really gives a lot of really shitty games an excuse to take more of your money that they don't deserve. And I think especially on console, the return policies aren't good enough that you should accept that. I'm honestly like, I make these arguments because I actually care about the people who don't play video games the way I do, even because I think that there's a lot of people, and Shagsworth was saying, who spent $70 on Forspoken. There's probably at least a few people who spent $70 on Redfall because they thought it was going to be a really great game because they're a huge fan of Prey and Dishonored. So they were like, I'm just going to buy Redfall, even though I play on Xbox. I don't want to get the Steam version, and that's why I'm buying it or anything. I just love Arcane. I'm a big fan. I got the Steelbook version, like whatever it ends up being. I don't necessarily want those people to have to pay $70 for a game that clearly just kind of got shit out, like it is not, it's a standard that I think is going to be accepted much more widely than this 720p 30 FPS Nintendo Switch game is $70, but it kind of earns it because it's brilliantly designed and nails its brilliant design across the board, with the exception of its performance, which, while is an exception, it's also understandable because of the power of the hardware. So there's one where, yeah, okay, I could say Tears of the Kingdom, $70 USD price point, like convert to Canadian, whatever. Didn't hate that, but also I wish it was better, or I wish that it performed better. However, it's like, yeah, you can accept that, and I would be happier about it if it was a $60 purchase, though. And I just think that God, I don't want to sound like I'm coming out for the early access model because the fake early access one, the Diablo IV style early access, where it's pay us more for this game and play it a little bit earlier. Because I don't like that for progression-based games, even though progression-based games are the ones which will be most likely to have people act on that extra $20. $10, whatever it ends up being, to be like, play the game a few days earlier, a week early, by paying us a little bit of extra money for this game because this is one of the ways we're going to try to monetize it. I'm kind of okay with that more now than I was, because I'm thinking like, well, if that was one of the things that kept game prices lower, so that games that people were only moderately interested in could be bought for a more reasonable price point, then I think we would have more people trying more interesting games at the retail level. And by retail, I don't mean big box necessarily. I mean purchase for a game that you own in perpetuity, or at least theoretical perpetuity, because you could get your license revoked if you get kicked off a platform. That said, Steam purchases are pretty safe because Valve isn't super big on banning people very often, and they've got their DRM-free kill switch, apparently, that if Valve ever goes out of business, they're just going to turn off all of the Steam digital rights management. So if a game has de novo, you might still not just own a DRM-free copy of it, but if it's just Steam, then that's why de novo is being put into so many Steam games. It's so it's so good old Gabe can't watch your back and just be like, yeah, you'll own these games forever, don't worry, even if we go out of business. Whereas the de novo people are like, no, we actually want to be able to control it even if Valve goes out of business. So that's that, and it's why GOG has got a great store, because it's totally DRM free. But what I mean is, like, that stuff should be making games cheaper so that more people can buy and play more games, and more developers can make more money on the games that they have. The counter argument is, oh, but Game Pass is the answer to that, or PlayStation Plus, like subscription models. It's not bad, and I think there's a lot of developers who can make some money off that, but I still think that you should always have the option to purchase the software and own it forever, as opposed to just renting it for a monthly fee. Be that Nintendo backwards compatible games, the Nintendo Switch Online stuff, or Game Pass even. I think, and Game Pass, I think at the very least does this right, where you do have the option to buy any game that you can play on Game Pass and give that developer more money to directly support them, as well as have a game which you own in perpetuity. I think that is fair enough. I'd say it's not perfect, but I think it's fair enough. I think Nintendo, though, could really use the ability, like, I should be able to pay Nintendo $20 to just own a copy of Super Metroid forever. Okay? It's crazy that I can't do that I have to pay them every single month if I want to play Super Metroid officially. Just Super Metroid. It's not even a really deep cut or anything. One of their most successful and legendary games of all time.